Hi, my name is Ruby Awoka, and welcome back to this exciting lesson episode on astronomy. Today's lesson is about our place in the universe. Previously, we had a lesson on the numerous galaxies we have in our universe, and we got to know that our galaxy is the Milky Way, and within the Milky Way, our star is the Sun. The Sun and its objects that revolve around it constitute the solar system. So, where are we in this vast universe, or where can we be located? So, by the end of this lesson, we will get to know about this place in our universe, the uniqueness of this place, the structure and component of this place. To begin with, I'll first of all ask a question. What is our place in the universe? Is it the moon, the sun, Jupiter, Earth, or Crab Nebula? If your guess is as mine, we are talking about the Earth. The Earth is the third planet from the sun, and it is the fifth largest planet in our solar system, such that it is smaller than the four gas giant planets, and they are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And it is also larger than the three rocky planets, and they are Mercury, Venus, and Mars. About 70% of its surface is covered by liquid water, hence it is also known as the blue planet. Knowing about its surface being covered by liquid water, how is the shape like? If something is liquid, we always know that it doesn't have shape, but here's the case. We want to know the shape of our Earth. The Earth is round but not a perfect sphere. This is because its spin causes it to be flattened at the poles, that's the North and the South Pole, and it bulges at the equator. Hence, it is known as oblate spheroid. That is the shape of the Earth. So it is called oblate spheroid. The diameter of the Earth around the equator is about 12,756 kilometers, and the diameter of the Earth around the poles, that's the North to the South poles, is around 12,712 kilometers. So, what is so unique about the Earth? It is currently the only planet that can sustain life, even though there are a lot of research going on to find other planets that can support life. But currently what we know is that the Earth is the only one that can sustain life. The reason being that it lies within the Goldilocks zone, that is an habitable zone around the sun, whereby the temperatures are just right to maintain liquid water for us. And it also has an atmosphere that provides us with oxygen and protect us from harmful radiations from the sun. So, knowing about the atmosphere, what is it? It is a layer of gases that surrounds the Earth. That's the Earth atmosphere that surrounds the Earth, and it is also known as the air. It is about 480 kilometers thick, and it is made up of 78% of nitrogen, 21% of oxygen, some traces of water, carbon dioxide, and other gases. It warms our planet by day and it cools it by night. The atmosphere is divided into 5 main layers or sections, and they are the troposphere, that's the closest layer, followed by the stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, and lastly is the exosphere. There is an imaginary line known as the Kármán line, which is about 100 kilometers above sea level. and it is believed that in within this line, this imaginary line, the atmosphere meets the outer space. So when you are above this line, or when you are above the gamma line, you are known as astronauts. So let us go on with the layers of the atmosphere. The first being the troposphere, which is the closest to the Earth's surface, and it is about 7 to 20 kilometers thick, and it contains almost half of the atmosphere. Nearly all water vapor and dust are found in this layer, and this is the reason why clouds are found here. Followed by the troposphere is the stratosphere, and it extends to 550 kilometers above the ground. Ozone is abundant here, so the ozone layer we've been hearing about, it is abundant in the stratosphere. It heats up the atmosphere while also absorbing harmful radiations from the sun. The air here is very dry and is about 1,000 times thinner here than it is at sea level. And within this layer, we have our weather balloons that take within this layer, our weather balloons and jet aircraft fly. Next to the stratosphere is the mesosphere, and it starts from 50 kilometers and extends to 85 kilometers high. It is the coldest part of the atmosphere, having temperatures averaging around negative 300 degrees Celsius, very cold. And within this layer, we have meteors burning. So what we see as shooting star, we see it within this layer. That's where our meteors burn. And next to the mesosphere is the ionosphere or the thermosphere. And it extends from 90 kilometers to between 500 kilometers and 1,000 kilometers. Its temperatures can get up to 1,500 degrees Celsius, very hot. And within this layer is where space shuttles fly, like the International Space Station, which orbits the Earth, is found in this layer. Lastly is the exosphere. It is the highest layer and it is extremely thin, and it is where the atmosphere merges with the outer space. It is widely composed of dispersed particles of hydrogen and helium. So knowing about the Earth atmosphere, what is the structure of the Earth? The Earth is made up of the crust, the mantle, the outer core, and the inner core. That's the structure. So the crust is the thin shell on the outside of the Earth. That's where you and I are found walking on. And it comprises of the continent and ocean basins. Continents like the African continent, South American continent, Asia continent, find the rest. And we have the ocean basins like the Atlantic, Pacific, and I want you to find the rest for me. It is also divided into tectonic plates, which are constantly in motion. Anytime these plates grind against each other, we get earthquake. Next to the crust is the mantle, and it is under the crust, and it's about 2,890 kilometers thick. It is mostly composed of silicate rocks which are rich in magnesium and iron. Anytime the mantle pushes through the crust, volcanoes occur. Have you seen? Then lastly is the core, which is divided into the outer and the inner core. And it is the innermost part of the Earth. And the inner core is solid, made up of iron and of radius 1,220 kilometers, whilst the outer core is liquid composed of nickel iron alloy and is about 2.18 kilometers thick. So knowing about the Earth's structure, how does the Earth moves? So look at, so the Earth spins on an imaginary axis that runs from the north to the south pole, and this imaginary axis is tilted about 23.4 degrees, and it takes the Earth 23.934 hours or 24 hours to complete one rotation about this imaginary axis. And the rotation of the Earth about this axis causes day and night, such that the part of the Earth that is facing the sun will be experiencing day, whilst the other part of the Earth that is not facing the sun will be experiencing night. The movement of the Earth around the sun is known as revolution, and the path it takes the Earth to revolve around the sun is elliptical or an oval path, such that in some point in time the Earth is closer to the sun, and which is known as perihelion, with a distance of around 147 million kilometers, and in some point in time the Earth is farther away from the sun with distance of about 152 million kilometers. It takes the Earth 365.26 days to complete one revolution. The Earth tilt and the revolution of the Earth brings about the changes in seasons that we have. So let's take the northern hemisphere to be our point of reference to talk about the changes in season. So let's start from here. At this point in time, the Earth is tilted in such a way that the South Pole or the southern hemisphere is facing the sun, whilst the North Pole is facing away from the sun. So at this point in time, the region at the northern pole will be experiencing winter. So as the Earth moves from this position to this position, the Earth is tilted in such a way that both the North and the South Pole are facing the sun. So at this point in time, we say the region at the northern hemisphere will be experiencing spring. And as the Earth moves to this point in time, the Earth is tilted in such a way that the northern hemisphere is facing the sun, whilst the southern hemisphere is not facing the sun. So the region here will be experiencing summer. So the regions in the northern hemisphere will be experiencing summer. So as the Earth moves from this region to this region, we say that to this region, the Earth is also tilted in such a way that both the North and South Pole are facing the sun. Hence, the people in the northern hemisphere will be experiencing autumn or fall. Spring and autumn have some similarity about shorter days and longer nights, one of them. So I would like you to make this research and find out for me. But let's take Ghana for instance. We don't experience these 4 seasons. So what is the reason? And some parts of West Africa, we also don't experience the 4 seasons. This is because we lie within the equator, and you can see from this region to this region, the regions around the equator are all facing the sun throughout the year. So that's the reason we don't experience these 4 changes in season. So since we know how the earth also revolve around the sun, there are other objects that equally revolve about our earth. And this brings us to the topic of satellites. So what is a satellite? A satellite is an object that orbits or circles around a bigger object. The moon. The moon is the only natural satellite of the earth, and we have artificial satellites which are used for telecommunication and monitoring of wildfires, and the International Space Station is one of them. So right now we are interested in our moon. That's the natural satellite of the earth, and it is about 3,500 kilometers wide, about 1/4 of the Earth's diameter. It is the 5th largest natural satellite in the solar system, just like its planet, the Earth. Its distance from the Earth is about 385,000 kilometers. It has an atmosphere called the exosphere. So the exosphere is a thin layer that surrounds a planet or a natural satellite. Its entire surface is cratered and pitted from impact of space rocks. So when you look at the surface of the moon, you could see that it is cratered. And it takes the moon 27.3 days both to rotate on its axis and also orbit the Earth. That is the reason why we always see the same face of the moon all the time. So this is the part of the moon that we always see, but this part, which is the back side of the moon, is not seen by us. So what happened when our moon, the Earth, and the sun becomes aligned? This brings us to the topic of eclipse. So eclipse is a complete or partial obscuring of celestial body by another. It occurs when 3 celestial bodies become aligned. On Earth here, we have 2 forms of eclipse. That is the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse. So from this point, I would like us to watch a video that will show us more about eclipse so that we will tend to appreciate this natural occurrence.
A solar eclipse occurs when the moon moves between the Earth and the sun, blocks the sun's light, and casts a shadow on the Earth. When the moon completely covers the bright disk of the sun, that's a total solar eclipse, and it happens roughly every year and a half somewhere on Earth. A partial solar eclipse is more common, happening at least twice a year. A lunar eclipse, on the other hand, is where the moon moves behind the Earth, so it's now the Earth blocking the sun's light on the moon, creating a shadow on it with a red tint. The easy way to remember the difference is to remember what gets darker. With the solar eclipse, the sun gets darker, and during a lunar eclipse, the moon does. A solar eclipse is a rare event that not many get to see, because the moon's shadow is relatively small. This limits the locations on Earth that get to see it. You have to be on the sunny side of the planet, and you have to be in the path of the moon's shadow. So, if you find your area in the path of totality one year, you've hit the jackpot, because on average, that same spot on Earth will only get to see a solar eclipse every 375 years. During a solar eclipse, the moon casts a shadow with two parts, the umbra and penumbra. The moon's umbra is part of the moon's shadow where the entire sun is blocked by the moon. In space, it's a cone extending some 400,000 kilometers behind the moon. It's when the small end of this cone hits the Earth that we experience a total solar eclipse. Most eclipse maps depicting the path will show you a circle representing the shadow of the moon, but in actuality, the true shape of the umbra is more like an irregular polygon with slightly curved edges. This is because the moon isn't a perfect circle. It has mountains and valleys on its surface, which all affect the passing sunlight and subsequent shape of its shadow. And scientists now have a greater understanding of the shape of the moon's surface, thanks to NASA's Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. The unprecedented level of detail from the topographic maps, photos, and other datasets has allowed us to more precisely pinpoint the regions on Earth falling within the path of totality of a solar eclipse. So, if you get the chance to witness a solar eclipse, always remember that our little moon plays a role that's quite large.
So, I hope you enjoyed the movie or you enjoyed the video. So, in Ghana, our last solar eclipse occurred on 29th March 2006. So the next one we should be expecting will be on the 2nd June 2027. And our next lunar eclipse will be on 16th May 2022. So you can put that date down and inside your diary, and we should be expecting this natural occurrence. Thank you, and bye, and hope to meet you again. Bye.